Hi guys, it's Kelly here, and today we are going to be working on a card using Tropical Paradise from Sunny Studio Stamps, along with some Simon Says Stamp products. So, oh, and my favorite thing, that stencil, which I totally love. That diagonal stencil is my favorite things. But anyway, so we're going to be doing some partial die cutting today. Die cutting isn't something that I usually do. I prefer one layer cards, but I just thought with the way that the card was going that it would fit really well. So we're going to start up like we usually do and just build the card base. So I'm going to do some stamping and some masking. I'm using full stick post-it notes for my masks. This really isn't anything outside of the norm of what I normally do. I just really, I have loved the set for so long, and it has been on my list of items to purchase. And my friend Sherry Moss actually sent it to me because she is totally awesome. Crafty people really are the best. So she had sent it to me. I literally got it in the mail today and could not wait to use it. So as soon as I laid my son down for his nap, I was like, craft time. So I really, really loved the hibiscus flowers that were in there, and I definitely wanted to use that. There's so many cute images. I didn't even use the flamingos, which I posted a picture of it on Instagram, and my sister, who is not even a crafter, is like, can I get those flamingos, yo? So it just goes to show you how cute this set is. So I wanted there to be like a sun in the background. This didn't really translate really well, I'm not going to lie to you. And so I masked the drinks and the flowers. I didn't worry about the leaves because I knew the green and the Copic coloring would cover it. So here I'm just basically putting down a very light base layer of Salty Ocean, and I'm concentrating that at the top. That's why you see that weird, just random post-it note in the middle. And then I'm going to put the stencil on top and then hit it again with the Salty Ocean. This creates just kind of a tone-on-tone background, makes it just a little bit more interesting than, just a plain distress ink background. And I love to do this with like any kind of geometric patterns because I feel like they don't distract away, or they don't take anything away from the rest of the design. So I'm going to go ahead and remove my masks. Now that I have everything in place, we're going to do that partial die cutting. So this is the largest stitched circle die from Simon Says Stamp. I'm going to use some washi tape to hold that in place. And then the way you want to line this up, which you can watch pretty much, Jennifer McGuire has so many videos on these, and this is her idea. That's where I saw it from anyway. You want to put the card in between the cutting plates only where you want it to cut. So I am leaving the other half of the card that I don't want cut hanging off, and even though I roll the whole thing through, because there's no pressure on that area, it won't cut through, and then you get like a semicircle. And then I just use my my Fiskars trimmer is the one with the wire guide in it, so I can just lay it in there and line up where the die cutting stopped, and just cut it off, and then you have like the super cute little die cut panel, but it's only partially die cut. And now we're going to do the Copic coloring, because you know I can't make a card without Copic coloring, especially not with all these adorable little stamps. So I wanted to do, like traditionally you see like a lemon or a lime that's on the side of like one of these fruity little drinks. I wanted to do an orange. I just wanted something a little different, and I knew I wanted my colors to be like orange, yellow, pink, and purple, like just really fun tropical things, some neon green. And so I just thought that that would be a good, I don't know, a good something different. So I'm hitting those like the inside of the orange with just a little bit of yellow to kind of brighten that up. And then I'm also going to use that same color combination for the inside of my flowers and my sun that doesn't really look like a sun. Know what I'm saying? So here I'm just adding in the shading, and these are drawn really, like it's really easy to see where the shading needs to go because of the way that these stamps are drawn. So I'm just following what's already there. So where the little half lines are, I am adding shading underneath them to give them some texture. I'm also, adding my darkest color toward the base of the flower. And I always start with my lightest, work out to my darkest. If you watch my videos, you know that that's just what works for me. But I don't discriminate. You do whatever works for you. I'm going to hit the areas that I want highlighted with the yellow, that light yellow, because it's going to push some of that color back and blend them out really nicely. And then I'm also, like I said, I'm going to do that sun. You tell me if it reads as a sun. I didn't really feel like it did. I don't know. I guess I didn't hate it. It just didn't read like a sun to me in the background like the way I wanted it to. But, you know, you can't win them all. So the rest of the card I'm super happy with, and I'm just going to concentrate on that. Silver lining. I'm using these same oranges to add some of the colors to the umbrella. I opted to do this a couple of different colors versus just doing it one color because I had so many colors in this card. I wanted to make sure that they were all represented in more than just one area. I picked some different browns for me for the coconut. These are, in fact, I think the E27 is actually called milk chocolate. But they're very chocolatey colors. And I just felt like it was going to be somewhere that was good between a warm and a cool, because I do have a lot of warms in this card, but then I also knew that I wanted to bring in that purple because I'm basically in love with purple flowers. Which is funny because I don't really like purple on anything else. While I was doing this, I was coloring it just like any other container, and then it dawned on me that coconuts are actually lighter on the inside, so probably not so dark in there. So I just went over that with an E21, and it bleached out that color really nicely, and then I just went back in and added just a little bit of shading for the rim where it would be darker inside the coconut. That's how you're just going to get a little bit of dimension. The pinks, this is the normal, my like go-to RVs. Most of the colors that I use start with the 0. And the reason, I mean, any of them that I like, the oranges I used an 04, the pinks I'm using an 04, an 02. Those are brighter. The higher the number is in the first part of the Copic, so like if you're using a 99, this can be a super dark color. If it's with a 0 or a 1, it's going to be something that's brighter. And those are just what I have a tendency to gravitate toward. Again, if you watch my videos, you've heard me say before that the RVs can be kind of hard to blend because the 02 bleaches out the 04 so much. So I almost always have to go back in and just kind of play with it a little bit, which you saw me do there on the drink. It's not a big deal to me, but there just isn't like a good, there just like isn't a good Copic combination between the two to make that kind of work without completely bleaching out your color, because Copics are transparent, and so if you lay a lighter color on top of a darker color, it removes the color. Here is the first flower, and I'll show you the color combinations for the rest of the flower, but I didn't show you all of the coloring because I did all of the same thing. I prefer to color these types of flowers, anything that has petals that appear to be round. I really like to play off of that. So I'm adding shading not only to the base of the petals, but I'm also adding it on the edges. The highlight in the center is what gives it that super round appearance. So I'm using a light hand and flicking motions. So you want to just be really light-handed. This is something that you're going to want to practice. It took me a long time to get it, so if you struggle with it, you're not alone. I wasn't like totally awesome Copic color right out the gate. I brought in, here I left out the RV00 and I brought in an RV69 because how you get depth is with your contrast. So I'm doing everything the same. I'm not going to add as much RV69. I'm only going to add a little bit because it's just for the contrast purposes, but it's important, especially in a way this flower is drawn, where you add it. So anywhere there's an indent, I want to make sure I at least get a little bit of dark because it's going to play up that indentation. And then I always go over those same areas with my next darkest color to just kind of blend them out so they aren't super harsh. So from lightest to darkest, darkest back out to lightest. And then I always try to make sure that I leave that white highlight, at least part of it. So we'll go over with my lightest color. I'll take the streaks all the way to the base of the flower, all the way out to the edge. But I do try to leave some white in there just to give it a super good highlight. These are the yellows that I used. I used them for the flower in the center. I struggle with yellows. I'm not going to lie to you guys. sometimes trying to get a good contrast color is difficult. And you can see in the colors that I chose, I use a Y00, an 02, an 08, and then a 26. The reason is the yellows are so similar. They're just so similar, guys. So if you try to use something that is that close, like if I tried to do a 000204, there would literally be no dimension. So don't be afraid to kind of hop around and see what works for you. I've also shaded yellows, like my contrast color, using E's or YRs. So it just depends on what kind of look you're going for. I'm doing the straw here, and I did use 4 colors for it, but tiny objects can be very difficult to shade with multiple colors because you can get bleeding. So you have to make sure you're using a really light hand. Were 4 colors necessary? Probably not. So if you find that you are struggling with keeping your color contained, reduce the amount of colors that you're using. I promise you it really isn't necessary. I just kind of do it out of habit. I picked out a couple of super light blues to color in the glass for that beverage. Basically, the only shading I colored the whole thing in with the super light blue, but then I'm just adding like little lines that are going to give the appearance of a glass. And I didn't go back and blend them out. I just put down what I put down, and that's what it was. For the leaves, I'm going to show you a couple of them, just because this, like the first one I did is like super tiny and it's kind of hard to see what the game plan is. So anytime you're doing something one layer and you're doing Copic color and you want to pay attention to what lays on top of each other, this leaf is coming out from behind a flower. Consequently, the part that is closest to the flower is going to be darker. No matter how else you shade it, it's going to be darker where there is an object on top of it. There would not be as much light getting there. Also, when you're doing leaves that are on top of each other, leave the leaf on top, whatever the edges that's hanging over, make sure you leave that light. You don't want to muddy your images by having everything one tone. So I decided I was going to do the shading from the center out, but I'm always putting in the shading of the underneath objects first so that I make sure that that's in there. Otherwise, it's not going to make any sense. And I'm definitely trying to leave the highlight on that top leaf on the what is right now the right hand side, so that there is a distinguished color between the two, and it really does look like the second leaf is laying underneath it. I did, as far as technique, the same way that I did the flowers, light hand flicking motion. I prefer to bring in my lightest color with the greens from the outside in, but you can do it however you'd like to do it. So after I was done with that, I felt like my drinks were just kind of floating on top of these flowers. So I kind of wanted to give them a little bit of something to stand on. And I just did that with my cool grays. Even though there isn't a table or anything that would like make sense per se, even just darkening up that area gives it some ground. So even though like I said, it doesn't necessarily make sense in the picture, it does ground the images. I outlined the top images with a light blue marker just to kind of set those off. And then I added some details with my white gel pen. I did it in a couple of different places. I wanted to add little bubblies in my drink. I added little highlights to my seeds and then also to the stamen on the flowers. The part that I had left, that super light yellow, I hit with a little white highlight. And then I just added in some like polka dot details to the umbrella and some polka dot details to the flowers, just because I happen to like a white gel pen. I think it really sets off those vibrant colors. I outline all of my images. This is totally optional. I just feel like it makes my images more crisp and makes the colors brighter. So I outline all those, and I just do that with a writing pen. No card of mine would be complete without Clear Wink of Stella. So I'm putting that on the flowers, the drink, and then the umbrella. And then we're going to start the actual assembly. In the beginning of the video, I showed you the die cut U from Simon Says Stamp because I thought I was going to do cheers to you as a die cut. That's not ended up what happened here. I ended up using the folded banner, and I stamped that out using black Simon Says Stamp ink because it stamps super crisp and I love it for stamping sentiments. But then I realized that the banner was kind of big for my sentiment. So what I'm doing is I'm just using my scissors to follow along the lines that the die cut has already given me, and I'm just making it a little smaller. That's all. I mean, it's the same idea, and those, what are they called? I can't think of the name of them. Oh man, cannot. Score lines. Holy smokes, folks. That was a struggle. The struggle is real, yo. But anyway, the score lines are still going to be there. Everything's still going to fold the same. It's just going to make it a little tinier. So I put some foam tape underneath the middle section of it, and then put Tombow Mono multi-glue on the edges that would actually be glued to the card. And then I'm going to pop this up on some foam, just because, hey, it's not a one-layer card, so I have an opportunity to use fun foam, and I'm going to take it. I hold it up there with my hand, and then I very roughly cut around the fun foam. Nobody is going to see it because it's going to be on the back of the card, so I don't really care what it looks like. I suppose if you were more particular about how your fun foam looked, you could do the same partial die cutting that we did before. That just seemed like a lot of work to me. So again, Tombow Mono multi-glue, I'm just going to go ahead and adhere that, and I'm using the green apple paper from Simon Says Stamp, because I felt like that just set off the leaves really nicely with all those bright colors. And then that's the entire card. So thank you so much for joining me, and I will be back shortly, just a couple of days, with another video, and I will catch you guys then. Bye.